Excelsior! So, given that the passing of Stan Lee is not even like current news anymore, I really should have done this before, but it didn't occur to me for a little bit, and then I had to find a way to squeeze it in. So I'm going to count down my pick for the top 10 Stan Lee cameos in films. I have no need to preamble this. Let's get right into it. So, number 10, we're going to go with Captain America Civil War. He comes in towards the very end, delivering a package for Tony Stark, or as he says, Tony Stank. Is it cheesy? Yeah, it's cheesy, but something about Stan saying it the way that he does, yeah, it makes me smile, and it's a moment of levity that Civil War kind of needed at the end, so thank you for that one, Stan. Next up, number 9, we will go to the first Avengers film. Again, coming in towards the end of the film, where we have the montage of clips from various, people being interviewed on the news with their thoughts about the Avengers. And Stan is an old guy playing chess in Central Park, and he's just sort of looking over his shoulder, and he goes, "Superheroes in New York? Give me a break." Which, of course, aside from being feeling like a very New York kind of answer and being adorable as Stan tended to be, there's the fact that it is kind of a joke in the Marvel Universe, the fact that every single hero's in New York. So for the guy who basically created the world in which that is the case to be like, that's ridiculous, yeah, that's kind of fun. It's a little meta. Number 8, Deadpool. It's just kind of fun to see Stan cut loose and be the DJ at a strip club. That's it. I've got no more insight, nuance, depth. That's just fun. Number 7, Captain America, The First Avenger, where Stan plays a general in World War II, expecting to see Captain America, and he ends up whispering to somebody next to him, "I thought he'd be taller." And it's, aside from being kind of a funny note, and it's also, a little bit of a nod to Stan's actual service in the military. And that's something that also gets touched on in some of his other cameos, including some more that are, in fact, on this list. Number 6, fittingly enough, Big Hero 6. Now, if you didn't stick around for the post-credits of this one, you missed his actual proper cameo, or the full cameo. So, been a little while since this one came out. And, why is Disney working on Frozen 2 and they made Wreck-It Ralph 2, when there isn't a Big Hero 6 2? That's the one that actually lent itself to a sequel. Anyways. So, initially, what we get is that one of the characters, Fred, who is the guy with the least brains, but the most enthusiasm, and also apparently a really rich father, we see a portrait on a wall of his father, who is very clearly Stan Lee. And that's it for the movie proper, but then in the post-credit sequence, apparently Fred stumbles across a hidden room and hints that his dad was some kind of hero in his own right. And then Stan Lee shows up for his obligatory cameo and tells him, "We've got a lot of stuff to talk about," and it's just cool and fun and sweet. And that's sort of that's the epitome of the Stan Lee cameo. They were sweet. They so rarely felt self-indulgent. They just felt sweet. So moving on, number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This one, it maybe goes on for a little longer than it should, especially in the post-credits bit. But there was something really cool about this cameo basically confirming the fan theory. So, with Stan showing up over and over and over and over again throughout the MCU, it had become adopted fan theory that he was in some ways tied to the Watchers, which is a conceit from the Marvel Universe of these beings who observe but do not interfere or intervene in events. And I think some people actually did have the theory that he was Uatu the Watcher, which in this cameo it's clear that he's not, but he is relaying information to them. So they did tie Stan to the Watchers, which is... It's the kind of thing where normally I would think, look, you don't need to explain a series of cameos. There's no need to do that. But it's done in a way that is fun and quick, and just for the people who catch it and get what's going on, it just... everything fits together in a way that doesn't feel obtrusive, and you go, yeah! Number 4, Avengers Age of Ultron. Again, we have an acknowledgement of Stan's service in the military, which is something I always kind of appreciate seeing. But also, I love the idea of him trying to drink a Norse god under the table. And losing. Like, I almost kind of wish he could have held his own up against them, but there's something nice about him sort of being led away, sort of all slumped over drunk. Excelsior. Which, I'm pretty sure that's the only time he's said it in any of his cameos. But, yeah, that was, again, it was sweet, it was nice, it was a good nod to his own history. It was good stuff. Here we go, top 3, and here's a surprise for you. It ain't even a Marvel movie. Teen Titans Go! So if you didn't see Teen Titans Go, he shows up. Teen Titans Go to the movies. The thrust of that film is that Robin wants a superhero movie made, well, specifically about him, but about the Teen Titans, because you're not a real hero until you've had a movie made about you. So they go to a movie studio and they see all these DC heroes who are, there to have their movies made. And in the background, sort of like peeking in from the sides, is Stan Lee, until he rushes up and wrestles control of the camera and goes, "Hey everybody, it's Stan Lee, here for my subtle cameo." And it is in fact voiced by Stan Lee. And somebody whispers to him, "This is a DC movie? I gotta get out of here." And he then shows up later again towards the end of the film, again, like just getting in the way, being like, "I don't care if it's not a Marvel movie, I love cameos." And I mean, I like Teen Titans Go to the movies anyways, but that just I love that they got him for that. It was just so funny. So, 2 more to go, both of which are tied to, I think, Stan's greatest creation. And that's Spider-Man. So first, we have The Amazing Spider-Man, which not a particularly not a particularly good Spider-Man film. It's okay, but I really do love his cameo in it, and I think what I love about it is it allows him to command the screen visually, but not feel like he's intruding on the story, because his cameos at their worst can feel like an intrusion, and they can kind of pull you out of it. None of those instances are on this list, obviously. I think a really good example of that would be his cameo in the first Fantastic Four movie. But here, what is going on is he is a librarian at the school, and he's just sorting books with headphones on. And it's a fairly stock moment where somebody isn't aware of all the chaos going on behind them because they have headphones on. Because that's how headphones work. Even noise canceling, right? But anyway, it's a trope. But there's something about him having the music and sort of as he's dealing with books, while the Lizard and Spidey beat the ever-loving crap out of each other behind him. And the moment that I really loved was this table goes flying towards Stan, and it's about to hit him, and Spidey gets a web on it and brings it back. I'm pretty sure he hit the Lizard with it when he did that. I like the composition of it. I like the choreography of the fight. There's a certain peacefulness to it while the chaos is going on. I remember thinking at the time, I don't think Stan Lee cameos are going to get any better than this. But they did. They got one better. So that brings us to Stan Lee's cameo in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. In this film, he plays a costume store owner. And if you haven't seen Spider-Verse, this is minor spoilers, for stuff that happens about a half hour in. In the universe that Miles Morales lives in, Spider-Man, that universe's version of Spider-Man, Peter Parker, has died. And everyone knows it. That's not a secret. The world knows, and they have now learned that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Spider-Man is dead. And Miles, trying to find some solace in what has happened, he goes to a costume store and takes a bagged Spider-Man costume. And he puts it on the counter, and Stan Lee's behind the register. And first of all, the movie came out after Stan had passed away. And he looks down at the mask and he goes, "I'm going to miss him. We were friends, And his passing brought a real bittersweetness to that moment, to that line. But then what happens after that is what really elevates it, because you have Miles going, "What if it doesn't fit?" Meaning the costume. And Stan says, "Well, it always fits, eventually," which works on multiple levels, because he's actually speaking to the themes of the film, because the film takes the idea that anyone can be Spider-Man as its heart. So this idea of, okay, even if you're not the hero yet, you can be. Eventually, this will fit. But then, at the same time, undercutting it, because the camera pans over to a sign that says, "No returns or refunds, ever." Which, aside from being a good joke, I feel like is also a bit of an acknowledgement of Stan's nature as a showman. And a little bit of a huckster. The guy cultivated his own cult of personality. He was one of the very few names of a comic book writer who was a bigger name than artists. That just didn't happen. And a lot of the reason why that happened was his cultivation of his own myth. And that's not to belittle his contributions, because the man has left an indelible impact on pop culture. But there was a certain amount of showmanship to that persona. And I feel like that final moment is a little bit of a tip of the hat. And yet it's not so severe a tip that it undermines the message of what was said. It's like just a little, let's keep the reality in mind, even as this message was great and this man is going to be missed. And maybe I'm reading into that even more than was intended by the filmmaker, but I really did adore that cameo. And that's why it's my number one pick for the best Stan Lee cameo. What are your thoughts? What's your favorite Stan Lee cameo in a movie? Any movie. Oh, for the record, Mallrats, that doesn't count as a cameo. That's an extended supporting bit. Just putting that out there. But other than that, whatever you want to say, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. A whole bunch of stuff to do. Buttons, links, Patreon. It helps. Other links besides to check out, P.O. Box, all that stuff. Give it a look down in the description. If you don't want to, that is okay. Because at the end of the day, folks, you're the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. True believers.